You don't get to let yourself into my home with a master key and call it protocol, Meredith." She didn't even blink, just stood there in my hallway, her glossy HOA badge swinging slightly on its lanyard. "Routine inspection, the board approved it." I stepped forward, calm but sharp. "The board didn't write the firmware on that smart lock. I did. You triggered 5 silent alerts when you walked in. You're not just trespassing, you're time-stamped, GPS logged, and archived." Name's Nora Vance, former network security analyst, now a single mom and full-time homeowner in the house my father built with his bare hands in '83. And no, I don't play nice with HOA Karens who think their clipboard gives them authority over my late father's legacy. Where are you watching from? Because if you've ever had to stand between your family and someone drunk on power, stick around. This mess is only just warming up. It started small. Isn't that how they always get in? A warning notice taped to the mailbox? Garden hose not stored properly after use. Section 4.20. I laughed the first time. Figured someone on the board was bored and needed a hobby. "Eli, my son, said we should hang the letter on the fridge like a gold star in passive aggression." I shrugged it off. The second one came 3 days later. This time it was about unauthorized decorative fixtures. They meant the wind chimes on the front porch, the ones my father carved for my mother, their first spring in this house. That one stung. See, this house isn't just wood, insulation, and plumbing. It's history. It's where Eli learned to ride his bike. It's where Dad planted the magnolia tree for Mom on their 25th anniversary, the same tree I've kept alive through 2 hurricanes and 3 water bans. That tree's been here longer than most of the HOA board members. Hell, it's seen more real life than they ever will. After the third notice accusing us of parking our car off gum in the driveway, I stopped laughing. Tried to take the civil route, sent a carefully worded email to the board, no response. When I followed up, they claimed I must have misinterpreted the tone of their notices, right? Because "your vehicle will be towed without further notice" is apparently up for interpretation. Started keeping a file, scanned every note, photographed every supposed violation, installed more cameras. Eli upgraded our home server, rerouted the network through his encrypted VPN setup. Kid's a tech prodigy, just like his grandfather. I told him, "You can't hack HOA stupidity," but he grinned and said, "You don't have to hack stupidity, you just need to log it." Then it escalated. I came home early one afternoon. Client canceled, traffic was smooth. As I pulled into the driveway, the motion sensor pinged my phone. Back door opened. I froze. Eli was supposed to be at school. Nobody else had a key. Inside, I found her, Meredith Langston, HOA president, standing in my kitchen, reading the framed handwritten recipe my mom had mounted over the stove. She didn't flinch. "Your door was unlocked," she lied. "We needed to check your gas line compliance." "My house has an electric range." She walked right past me, clipboard in hand, not a single apology. "Just doing my job," she said. "And as you know, homeowners agree to unannounced inspections if there's cause." There was no cause. That night, Eli sat beside me under the magnolia tree. Its branches reached over us like arms that never stopped sheltering. He leaned his head back against the swing, the same one my dad built the week Eli was born. "They're pushing us," he said, "not because they have a reason, because they think they can." I nodded, the knots in my chest tightening. "We're not moving, Eli, not now, not ever." He looked at me and grinned. "Then let's make 'em regret trying." That was the night the real story started. Eli wasn't bluffing when he said, "Let's make them regret trying." By morning, he'd rerouted every security cam feed in the house to back up to 3 different cloud drives. One under my name, one under his, and one under an old client alias of mine from my consulting days. Redundant, airtight, legal. We had footage. Clear, high-def clips of Meredith walking in without knocking, without calling, without authorization. My phone time-stamped every motion ping. Her face, her clipboard, even her smug little half-smile when she looked around the kitchen. It was all documented. The smart thing would have been to take it straight to a lawyer, but I hesitated. Not because I was scared, because I knew they'd spin it. Meredith would claim it was staged, or worse, that I had tampered with board policy. HOA boards don't deal in truth. They deal in process. And I knew something she didn't. I'd been in digital security for 20 years. I'd seen companies fire whistleblowers while praising their corporate values. I'd learned early, the first move isn't attack, it's containment. Eli and I agreed, no big confrontations yet. Just observe, log everything. Let them dig their own grave. And they tried. The next week, Meredith escalated. She sent a formal notice stating our landscaping violated aesthetic standards, said the magnolia tree's root spread was encroaching on public sidewalk space. That tree was 37 years old and hadn't grown an inch past its brick-lined bed in over a decade. "Want to see their evidence?" Eli muttered, scrolling the emailed PDF. It was a blurry photo taken from a weird angle, probably meant to exaggerate the shadow cast by the tree onto the sidewalk. That's when I saw it. Behind the trunk, half in shadow, stood a woman. Mid-40s, cropped hair, arms folded, just watching, not posing, not participating, just still. "Zoom in." I leaned over. "That's Denise Keller." Eli blinked. "Who?" "Used to be my mom's friend. They did that neighborhood garden walk together every spring. I didn't know she was still on the board." He adjusted the feed and nodded. "She is. HOA secretary. Barely says a word at meetings. You think she knows?" "I think she's trying not to be seen." That image haunted me more than Meredith's nonsense letters. Denise looked like someone waiting for a train she didn't want to catch. That kind of silence, it's louder than shouting. 2 days later, we found a bright yellow tag zip-tied to the porch swing. "Item to be removed by end of week or fines will be issued. See subsection 5.3. I nearly ripped it down on sight, but Eli stopped me. "Leave it," he said. "Let's keep letting them document their own stupidity." That night I opened the old cedar chest under the stairs, the one Dad had used to keep our house blueprints, repair logs, tax forms. All paper, all organized. I flipped through the folders until I found the deed. And tucked behind it, like a message waiting for the right moment, was a copy of the easement agreement Dad signed in 1983. The porch swing, magnolia tree, and side path to the tool shed, all protected, grandfathered in. I grinned. I made copies, sent them to a Dropbox Eli had just shared with the name HOA_Legacy. The next day, I attended the board's monthly public meeting. Not to speak, just to sit in the back, silent. I wore Dad's old Navy windbreaker, sat with my arms folded, legs crossed, calm. When Meredith saw me, her lips pressed together, like she'd tasted something sour. She didn't say my name, but the meeting agenda added a new line: unauthorized surveillance devices in common areas. I turned to Eli. "They know they're being watched." He smiled. "Good. This wasn't about hoses or porch swings anymore. This was about control. And they hated that someone was pushing back with receipts." Eli leaned over to whisper, "They're nervous. Meredith won't look this way. Denise keeps glancing at her clipboard like it's going to rescue her." He was right. The entire HOA board sat stiffer than usual. You could feel the tension humming between their perfectly stapled reports and tightly folded arms. Meredith, though, she tried to hold on to her smugness. Tried. Halfway through the meeting, they introduced a motion to authorize routine exterior inspections of properties believed to violate architectural harmony. I raised an eyebrow. Architectural harmony? Translation, Eli muttered. They want to snoop with a clipboard and call it policy. I stood, calm, quiet. "May I ask what gives the HOA the right to enter private porches under this new routine inspection clause?" Meredith's smile was all nerves and teeth. "We're simply aligning with updated standards outlined in the 2021 Architectural Addendum." "The one not signed by a single resident?" I asked, and sat back down before she could stammer an answer. She didn't respond, not in front of the crowd, but her glare landed on me like ice water on skin. I knew what it meant. Game on. The next morning, my doorbell rang. A new notice was taped to the glass, this one in bold red ink. Violation. Unregistered alterations to exterior fixture, swing, and suspicious surveillance setup, per complaint. Eli stood behind me, holding his coffee. "They're digging with a spoon in a concrete wall." We didn't speak for a moment, just watched the ink dry under the rising sun. My son reached for the paper, but I stopped him. "Let it hang. They need us to react. We need them to underestimate us." Later that afternoon, Denise came by. Not openly, not with fanfare. I saw her standing across the street, pretending to check the community mailbox. She didn't wave, didn't look over. But after 5 minutes she walked slowly past my driveway, eyes down, breath shallow, like each step cost her. She paused at the edge of our grass. Her hand trembled slightly when she reached into her coat and slid something between the slats of our white picket fence. Then she walked off. Eli retrieved it, a folded piece of paper. Inside was a handwritten note. They're planning to change the bylaws quietly at next month's vote, Section 12C. It'll give them authority to conduct random home checks for safety, but they're targeting you. They'll say it's about siding or lighting or landscaping. Don't let them pass it. I can't say this aloud, but I had to do something. D. I held the letter like it burned. She's cracking, Eli said softly. She's scared, I corrected, and she's not the only one. That night, I pulled out Dad's community binder, every HOA amendment proposal from 1982 to 2015. He'd been meticulous about keeping copies, tracking votes, scribbling notes in margins. It was his way of staying ahead of their nonsense. Eli sifted through the legalese beside me. You realize if they pass this clause, they could legally step onto anyone's property? That's next-level surveillance. I nodded. It's not just about us anymore. They're normalizing the overreach. I called a friend, Eliza Monroe. We'd worked together years ago on a homeowners' rights nonprofit. She was a paralegal now, focusing on HOA abuse cases. When I told her what was happening, she didn't hesitate. Get me copies of everything, she said. Every letter, every bylaw change notice, every time-stamped video. I'll build you a paper shield they can't punch through. By midnight, Eli and I had scanned over 60 pages, uploaded footage, filed everything into encrypted folders labeled with dates, titles, and tags. We printed hard copies and tucked them behind loose bricks in the garage wall, a hiding spot Dad had once used for emergency cash. Eli tapped one of the folders. This isn't just about swings and trees anymore, is it? No, I said. This is about precedent. And that was the moment I stopped thinking like a homeowner and started thinking like a firewall. They weren't just violating my rights. They were rewriting the rules for everyone else in that neighborhood. Drop your stories in the comments. Have you ever seen someone finally stand up to an HOA bully or witness quiet resistance? And tell me, where are you watching from? The next morning, a yellow notice flap tagged our front window. Violation improper monitoring. Wireless devices detected. Removal required. The tag shook in the wind, labeled Section 8.5. I peeled it off and placed it on the kitchen counter. Eli rolled his eyes, opened another cup of coffee. We hadn't said much since Denise's note arrived, but everything hung heavier. The binder lay open on the dining table, Dad's neat handwriting mocking the mess Meredith was trying to create. It felt like a secret history being sworn to memory. We might need to show him exactly what Section 8.5 is, Eli said, flipping through. Which one covers abusive enforcement? I asked. He paused. That's buried in the state HOA statutes, not the binder. They can't hide behind bylaws if state law overrides them. I nodded. Time to dig deeper. The afternoon sun was hot against my back as I walked the length of the porch. My father once joked I'd pay to keep this thing just for the swing alone. One breeze carried magnolia petals, and I wondered what he'd do now. The swing by itself felt like a signal. Nostalgia isn't evidence, but it's proof of roots. Eli stood behind me, holding his tablet. New footage. Yesterday they parked at the curb. Denise got out but stayed back. She was watching the door, not you. She's torn, I said. Good, we need her, not them. He tapped a screen. Meredith used her code 3 times at 2:07, 2:12, and 2:15 p.m. She opened the door just enough to peer inside, then closed it. No knocking. I looked at the screen and tightened my jaw. They're baiting us to show frustration, but we stay calm. This is about control. That evening, I set up the binders and notes at the dining table. Eliza called again. Any new violations? She asked. Another tag on the window, I said, accusing us of illegal tech. Good. It gives me breathing room. They're building a case. Don't knock it down. Eli snorted. You're pretty friendly with legal gray areas. Eliza laughed. Gray isn't wrong when the base is solid. Just keep your docks airtight. I looked at Eli. He nodded and quietly slid over fresh printouts. Recorded key entries, timestamps, Denise's notes on bylaw changes, footage logs, everything color-coded for clarity. The real spark came later, Denise's voice on the porch. I opened the door to her standing there, jacket zipped tight despite the warmth, shoulders slightly bowed. Her eyes flickered to the binder on the table. She asked nothing, just held out another paper, hands trembling. It read, "Next Wednesday's meeting is the moment. Meredith is expecting unanimous approval. If 3 votes change, they lose quorum. I can't be the one, but someone will. D." She paused, searching for words. I cut in. "You don't have to speak, just vote." She looked up, eyes glistening. "I can't watch you get buried, Nora." My heart clenched. "You're not burying us. You're saving a community." She exhaled, voice firm. "Then I'll vote no on consent. I can do that." The fight surged again, not mine, not Eli's, but all ours. Armed with our binders, our tapes, and a fractured ally who had finally found her spine. Meredith stormed the following evening, clipboard in hand, storm clouds in her glare. She rattled off accusations in polished tones. I answered each one with recorded facts, citing bylaws and state codes. She sputtered, trying to regain control, but my voice never shook. Eli tapped the tablet and displayed the timestamp logs. Meredith stilled for a long moment. Denise adjusted her seat, didn't say a word, but the others watched, and some shifted in their seats. After Meredith left, I found Denise in the driveway. She looked up at the magnolia, petals drifting, then met my eyes. "She needs to be careful," she said quietly. "They'll retaliate." I placed a hand on her arm. "Let them try." She nodded. "I'll vote no." In that moment I felt something break inside me, fear snapping like a dry twig. We were no longer defending, we were ready to take the lead. Evening light was thin when Eli said, "Let's check the basement. Might find something in Dad's old stuff." I didn't argue. Didn't need to. It was time to search deeper. Door creaked open as we stepped below. The old basement smelled like cedar and quiet secrets. One bare bulb flickered, casting long shadows across cardboard boxes and dusty tools. I paused, feeling Dad's presence in the air, like he was watching us carry our fight in this same room years ago. Eli found Dad's tool bench. Scratched initials, scattered screwdrivers, that ancient toolbox, the one with the dent from when he dropped a wrench in 1987. I moved a flashlight beam across the wall, revealing a locked cabinet mounted behind metal shelving. There was something significant in its placement, hidden, yet always available to him. I touched the rusty latch and Eli handed me a crowbar. The lock fractured with a snap. Inside, binders labeled HOA correspondence, architectural approvals, and, tucked between them, a dark green envelope. I held it up, Eli leaned in. The lamp flickered, buzzed, then went out. Total darkness but for the flashlight. Floorboards groaned under our breaths. I sliced open the envelope, handwritten notes, clipped newspaper articles, even yellowed letters from the earliest HOA Board meetings. Documents proving Dad negotiated a carve-out for this house. Swing, magnolia, tool shed, porch. The final note, keep, for the day Mary goes too far. My chest seized. Eli whispered, "This is it." We took photos with the tablet, documented each page, each signature. I pressed Dad's letter flat against the light. His handwriting, sure, determined, thoughtful. I felt tears threaten, but pushed them back. This was Dad's legacy, wrapping around us like armor. We stacked papers into a folder and turned to leave, but I spotted something else. A small metal box glued to the shelf's bottom. I pried it open. Inside, an old USB drive and a pocket notebook. The notebook's first page read keypad codes, 5 to 15. We scanned. It listed Meredith's master key custodian number and dates of authorized entries. But there were gaps. Days where entries didn't match the logs we had. Someone had covered something up. "This notebook records who accessed the override code," Eli breathed. I flipped through faded pages, found Dad's scribbled notes. "Monitor entry logs monthly. If unusual use, contact lawyer." Beneath it, his last entry, "She used it again." No date. Shivers ran through me. Dad had knew, he documented it, and he left it here. We packaged everything and tucked it in Eli's backpack. At the top of the stairs, I paused. Flashlight beam lit porch outside through the small window. The swing, empty, gentle wind, rustling leaves. Felt like Dad was nodding. Our story rooted in this swing, this property, and this hidden truth. Eli nodded toward the basement clutter. We need to back these up and share them. Yeah, I said, voice firm. Tonight. Later, Eliza joined via video call. We set folders publicly labeled Basement Discovery in that secure Dropbox and sent notifications to legal counsel, local community board, and Diane. Leverage spreading like roots. Solid, Eliza said, eyes hard. This is documentary gold. They can't dismiss historical carve-out. And the hidden code notebook? That's smoke and fire. We talked strategy into the night. How and when to leak documents without letting Meredith hide them, support for Diane to speak up, preparing the community with truth. I looked at Eli, saw his jaw set like Dad's used to be. We weren't small players anymore. And in that moment, I realized the house had exactly what we needed. It whispered its legacy, and now it had our backing. The next morning, the laptop pinged. Legal counsel emailed, strong file receipt, suggesting a preemptive community alert. I scrolled through the email, Eli beside me, fingers tapping the edge of his mug. Community alert, which means pulses in the neighborhood, he said. Public momentum, I smiled back, feeling the air shift. That afternoon, I stepped out to the porch. Magnolia petals drifted around my ankles, and I ran a hand over the wooden swing. This wasn't nostalgia, it was inheritance. Dad's legacy was breathing through every gust, every shadow on the stone path. I braced myself. Eli carried in boxes we'd retrieved from the basement, filing binders, USB drive, notebook, Dad's letters. I started formatting a small presentation, visuals of the original carve-out clause, the code logs, the hand-signed documents. It had to look approachable. It had to look rock solid. Will Denise come? I asked quietly. He shrugged. She said she'd show up, just hope she won't freak in front of everyone. Let her, I replied. Her vote matters more than her voice tonight. Around 6, neighbors started trickling in. The porch swing held its own, empty but steadfast. Kids hovered, mums with cups, old Mr. Garrett from next door. Denise arrived last, carrying her clipboard like armor. She hesitated, then looked at the magnolia. A small smile flickered before she approached quietly. I nodded. Thanks for being here. She leaned in, gave your flyers to 3 families, told them what to ask. I didn't need words. She was turning, that was enough. The sun dipped. I took a breath, then began. Friends, thanks for trusting me with your time. I showed the carve-out documents. The crowd nodded as magnolia petals drifted on the porch. This swing, tree, tool shed, protected since Dad's day. I clicked the notebook logs. Meredith used the master key at times not recorded, even when no inspection was scheduled. Methinks someone paled. Meredith stood across the yard, arms folded. A few neighbors glanced her way, murmuring. I clicked to the list of missing entries, then pulled out a printed table. Here, compare the HOA log versus Dad's notebook. It doesn't match. A low murmur rose in the group. Denise looked between me and the papers. She swallowed. I scanned the audience. This is bigger than us. They want the right to walk in whenever they want. Under a clause they snuck into next month's vote. I paused. Anyone here agree that's wrong? Hands rose. Names, quiet affirmations, firm stances. I saw a change ripple through the porch swing's shadow. Meredith stepped forward. That's misinformation, she snapped. Board follows protocol. Denise cut in, voice clear. I wrote the note. Silence fell harder than rain. I saw what they did. I've watched them push every limit. I'm voting no because this is about trust. An audible gasp, Meredith's face lost color. Neighbors shifted. I added, with all due respect, this isn't personal, it's precedent. The crowd leaned in. I left it there, basket of prints at the porch entrance. Take one, talk tonight, voting's next Thursday. Don't let them write snooping into law. Eli gathered prints, Denise helped distribute. I watched them move among neighbors, sharing info, pointing to code logs. By night's end, the swing's creak echoed as I sat alone a moment, breeze playing in leaves. I closed my eyes and felt Dad's presence. The swing still swung, even without me pushing it. It was enough. Gray dawn seeped through the kitchen blinds as I spotted the 2 unused voting proxies on the island. The house was unnaturally still. It felt like the calm before a storm. Eli shuffled in, eyes hollow. "Clark Jensen talked," he said. "He said Meredith skipped writing the inspection log last spring." My pulse pounded. No log, no record, no defense. "I need you to get it on camera," I whispered. His jaw clenched. "Tomorrow, at the mailbox," he nodded. I swallowed hard. That's when the hunt really starts. The drizzle thickened by afternoon, an awkward blessing. Clark arrived to pick up his mail just as I stepped outside, phone recording. He looked surprised. "Clark, can I record a quick question?" I asked. His nod was sharp. "There was supposed to be a second inspection last spring. I don't see it in the log." He hesitated, eyes darting. "Yeah, Meredith went inside, no homeowner. It was one-sided." "She entered our home?" I caught my breath. "How long?" He swallowed. 10 minutes, no doorbell." I held the phone steady. "Thanks." He hurried off. Relief and dread surged in me. This was solid. Inside, Ellie waited like a sparring partner. I dropped the phone on the table. All there, his shoulders eased. "That's gold." He scrubbed the footage, and I thought of Dad's Magnolia bookmark, truth woven through our history. We were ready to strike. Eliza joined us on video that evening. We sat around the living room coffee table, laptops glowing. I outlined a plan: submit Clark's recording, draft a complaint about unauthorized entry, send a respectful but firm community alert, and leverage the proxies. Denise, who'd lingered on the couch, finally spoke. "I've got 4 proxies, and 2 neighbors want to speak." She slid the forms across. Relief washed me. Her quiet strength matched the storm in my chest. Eli smirked. "We're stacking the deck." I grinned back, smart and legal. Once they left, Eli and I stayed up late combing through documents. I realized one more piece would seal it, a witness who saw Meredith inside. Eli's friend Marisol came to mind. He called her softly. By nightfall, we had her recorded statement. Properly framed for legal use, she'd seen Meredith leaving our porch last spring unannounced. Another brick in the wall. We shut down the laptops. I traced the Magnolia bookmark, thumb grazing the embossed flower. The swing's shadow stretched across the porch, as though acknowledging our preparation. Tomorrow we'd set the trap. "I'll notify legal," I said, staring into the dark frame of the window. "By afternoon, the video goes public." Eli nodded, fierce pride glinting from his brow. I felt a shift in us, from defense to offense. The fight would bring them to a boardroom packed with witnesses and truth. Meredith would walk into that trap blind. The house hummed softly at night. I pictured Clark's confession, Denise rallying neighbors, and the Magnolia standing witness. Dad's spirit felt close, whispering that we were on the right ground. "Tomorrow," I murmured, and Eli repeated it. "No backing down now." The morning of the board meeting, the air tasted like static. Eli hovered over the printer, double-checking printouts, while I zipped the thumb drive into a weathered leather folder. Dad's old one, the same he'd carried when he won that land right suit in '96. I could almost hear his voice. "You don't corner snakes. You let them slither in on their own." I pulled the porch swing forward. It creaked, just like always. I let my hand rest on the armrest, fingers brushing the engraved initials. The swing had always been a reminder of patience, of roots. Today, it was a seat of war. Denise showed up first, holding her bag like it contained contraband. 3 more proxies, she said, almost breathless. Plus the bakers. They're furious now. She looked around. "Do we win with this?" "We don't win," I said. "We reveal." We arrived at the community center 15 minutes early. Meredith was already inside, standing with a coffee in one hand and a smirk that could curdle milk. Her vice president, Alan, flanked her like a rusted gatepost. He barely looked up. Meredith's eyes swept over me like I was static on her screen. "Ah, Ms. Vance," she said, voice sweet enough to rot teeth. "Didn't think you'd bother showing up." "Funny," I said. "I thought the same about you after last spring." "Ha!" She blinked just once. We took our seats at the long folding table, lined with board members, a few residents, and the community attorney. A dusty projector hummed beside Eli as he queued up the evidence. Denise sat to my right. She didn't speak, but I felt the tremor in her hand under the table, pressing the proxy slips between her palms like prayer cards. The meeting opened like clockwork. Minutes approved, finances skimmed over. Then came community complaints. My turn. I stood. This is in regard to item 4B board access policies. The room stirred. Last April, I continued, the HOA conducted a second inspection on our home. My son and I were not informed. No paperwork was filed, no notice posted, and yet, someone entered. A pause. Eli played the first clip. Clark Jensen's voice crackled over the speaker. Yeah, Meredith went inside. No homeowner, it was one-sided. Alan's head lifted slowly. Meredith's nails tapped her clipboard. Next, Marisol's statement, a quiet voice, describing seeing Meredith leave our porch that same day, uninvited, unannounced. I watched the faces. Alan stared at the table. The community lawyer was suddenly alert. A woman in the second row murmured something, her eyes wide. We have digital backups, I added, from our network cam logs, plus proxy votes to submit. I handed the folder across the table. Respectfully, we're requesting an investigation into procedural violations and an immediate suspension of access privileges for any board member until due process is complete. Meredith laughed. Actually laughed, sharp and dry. This is absurd. There was no break-in. This is a smear. But her voice lacked confidence now. Her smile cracked just a little. I never said break-in, I replied. I said unapproved entry. You gave yourself keys to homes, and you used one. She turned to the attorney. Well, say something. The lawyer cleared his throat. If this material is verified, and it will be, we'll have to issue a compliance audit for the board. You could have heard a pin drop. Then Denise did something unexpected. She pulled out her phone and placed it flat on the table. I recorded our last board-only meeting. Meredith asked me to delete it. I didn't. She tapped play. Meredith's voice came through, clear, deliberate. If you don't log it, it never happened. Dead silence. Denise didn't look at her, just leaned back, folded her arms, and exhaled. The attorney stood. We'll need to recess for 15 minutes. I advise all board members to remain here. Meredith sat still, jaw clenched, nails digging into her notes. No more smirk, no more sneers, just silence. Eli looked at me, his voice barely a whisper. We cracked her. No, I said. We just opened the door. Let's see what comes crawling out. 15 minutes felt like 15 years. The recessed boardroom didn't empty, just crackled with whispers and side glances. Meredith had gone stiff, barely moving in her seat. Her coffee sat untouched, going cold like her defenses. Eli leaned beside me, flipping through the printed emails again, making sure everything had timestamps. Denise stayed quiet. Her confession had shifted the whole room's center of gravity. Even Alan, once Meredith's echo, had started tapping his pen like a bomb tech diffusing guilt. The attorney returned first, walking briskly like he'd just finished reading the HOA's constitution backward. He called the meeting back to order without glancing at Meredith once. I've reviewed the submitted materials, recordings, witness statements, and electronic documentation, he said. Given their combined weight, I'm formally recommending a full compliance audit on the sitting board president. Someone in the crowd gasped. Meredith shifted in her chair but didn't speak. The audit, he continued, will begin immediately and will include a review of key issuance procedures, board communication logs, and homeowner incident reports from the last 18 months. I leaned forward. I have one more thing. The room turned. I reached into my bag and pulled out the old envelope from Dad's filing cabinet, the one marked Cypress Creek Plat Easement Final. I unfolded the yellowing paper and slid it across the table. This is a deeded easement signed by the original developer, I said. My father negotiated it when he purchased our home. It grants us legal right to exclusive access around the side lot, where Meredith's team just fined us for a shared access path. That fence we built, it's on our land. Alan squinted. That can't be right. That path's always been... Not always, I said, just since the new board came in and redrew the community plan. The attorney took the plat map, laid it over the current HOA digital copy and traced it with his finger, his brow furrowed. Then he looked up. She's correct. The crowd stirred louder this time. Whispers turned to murmurs. Someone muttered, she really did her homework. Meredith finally broke. This is ridiculous. She's just bitter her father couldn't play by the rules. That man was a thorn in our side for years. My father built half the retaining walls in this neighborhood. You still use his legal drafts for tree removal. Don't talk about rules to me. Silence. Denise leaned forward. Meredith, we let you rewrite the guidelines last year. You said it was temporary. You promised it wouldn't be used against anyone. Meredith looked right at her, venom sharp in her eyes. And you were too weak to stop me. That did it. The room shifted again, this time against her. The lawyer spoke, his voice steady. Meredith Langston, until the audit concludes, your board privileges are suspended. You'll surrender your access credentials and master keys by end of day. Alan will serve as acting chair. Alan opened his mouth, closed it again. I accept. I stood, placing both palms on the table. I'm not done. Eyes back on me. I'd also like the board to consider a motion to install a community-wide key audit system, one that logs entries digitally. No more quiet visits, no more inspections without warning. Alan nodded. We can draft that immediately. Meredith's chair screeched as she stood. You're all sheep. She just wants revenge. Eli stood, slow and deliberate. No, we want our home back. She left, slamming the side door on her way out. The swing of it rattled the projector. I turned to Denise. She hadn't spoken since her confession, but her eyes were damp. She offered a trembling smile and whispered, I'm sorry I waited so long. You did what you could, I said, and that recording, you just tipped the scale. She nodded. It's not over yet, is it? I shook my head, not even close, but now we fight in the open. Have you ever dealt with a nightmare HOA or seen one neighbor finally speak up? Drop your story in the comments and let us know where you're watching from. We read every single one. The afternoon sun cast long shadows over our porch swing. The same swing Dad built. Its wood weathered but solid. That swing had witnessed our fight. Now it watched as I leaned forward, pulling the magnolia-scented bookmark from my pocket. It always grounded me. I tucked it between pages of the community bylaws we'd updated. Inside, buzz filled the kitchen. Denise paced near the window, phone in hand. Alan just texted. He's drafting the audit proposal. He wants a public meeting next week. She exhaled sharply, shoulders relaxing. He asked if we'll walk it through together. Eli looked up from his laptop, absorbing the news. Good. Full transparency. I nodded. We need to prepare. Formal presentation, backup docs, and community support. He opened a spreadsheet. I compiled a list of incidents this past year. Fines, unlogged entries, fence disputes, 26 in total, categorized. He gestured for me to review. The list was methodical. Dates, infractions, board responses. At the top, the audit, the deed, the Clark and Denise recordings, evidence anchored in sequence. I'll prepare a slide deck, I said, even saying it felt like stepping onto a stage. Graphs, timeline, photos of the fence, the porch door, compare logged inspections versus unauthorized entry. Denise offered tea, which I took with trembling gratitude. We'll need community backing, she said. Neighbors are spooked. They think Meredith might retaliate. I smiled. Then let's empower them. I tapped my phone, starting a group chat for residents. We'll host a prep session, encourage testimony, show them how the audit helps everyone. She nodded, seriousness sharpening her eyes. I can speak first. Later, Marisol popped in with her 3 children, apologetic for the intrusion. She handed us homemade cookies. Ginger and molasses, Dad's favorite. It was a symbolic gesture. Sweetness for the fight. She offered to bring more neighbors to the next meeting. By evening, our living room was buzzing with 4 neighbors, some nervous, others resolute. We ran through the slide deck, the swing photo, magnolia bookmark peeking beside it, symbolic, anchoring the memory of home. Each topic tied strategic evidence. The board's handed over's master key, the missing logs, the deeded easement. Dialogue flowed, questions raised. What if Meredith challenges the easement? Someone asked. We explained title law, property surveys, legal counsel standing by. Realistic, grounded, no wild fantasies. At one point, Denise adjusted the deck to include records of tree trimming bylaws Dad drafted. She showed the original drafts, sealed with his initials. Our property wasn't just ours. It was part of a legacy he'd shaped in this community. That reminder brought a hush. Faces softened. Determination glimmered. Eli stepped forward, voice firm. We'll bring this to the public hearing, but this is bigger than one house. It's about preserving accountability in every yard here. His sincerity warmed the room. Marisol chimed, and I'll speak up. I saw Meredith on your porch. I'll share. Others nodded. We set dates, practiced statements, timed applause. Authenticity, not performance. Later that night, Alan's text pinged. Draft motion live tomorrow. You can review before distribution. The fight was going communal, solid, structured, unstoppable. Before bed, I sat on the swing, watching streetlights flicker on. The magnolia bookmark rested in my lap. Dad's wisdom echoed. You corner snakes. No. Let them slither, expose themselves. We'd done just that. I smiled, imagining the upcoming public hearing. My son's calm voice, Denise's brave stand, neighbors united, Meredith's secrets laid bare under fluorescent boardroom lights, and that swing, rocking gently, carrying our legacy forward. This wasn't over. It was approaching the tipping point. But tonight, for the first time since this began, I felt a calm fierceness. Roots deeper than fear, roots that anchored us to justice. The gymnasium, transformed into the community's shared battleground, felt charged. Long folding chairs faced a platform draped in HOA banners and a microphone. I spotted the magnolia bookmark still tucked into my binder. A steady pulse through the nerves. Families trickled in, Marisol with her kids, Denise clutching her phone and proxy forms, neighbors passing around water bottles. A few folks wore shirts that said "Accountability Matters." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of all those faces. This was more than evidence. It was validation. Alan tapped the mic. We'll begin the public hearing on the proposed audit and key access policy. He glanced at me. Mrs. Davis? I stepped forward, heart pounding but my voice steady. Thank you, everyone, I began, pausing, eyes sweeping the crowd. This started in April when a board member entered our home using a master key without notice. My son recorded statements. A neighbor witnessed it. This deed, I raised the easement map, proves that even the fence she fined us over stands on our property. Our home, our dignity, wasn't considered by her. I paused, let the hush grow. Applause stirred in pockets. The attorney, seated behind the board, nodded. I continued, we're not asking for revenge, we're asking for fairness. We've seen fines unfairly levied, records manipulated, privacy invaded. I brought up the slide deck, highlighting sequences, unauthorized entries, missing inspection notices, land misuse. Neighborhood data flashed in supporting charts, number of disputed fines over time, recorded infractions versus logged reports. Denise took over next. Her voice trembled at first, but grew firm. I recorded the board meeting where deadlines were erased. These decisions were hidden from homeowners. She shared her screen showing the video clip. Meredith's words, if it's off record, it never happened. Gasps, nods, truth landmines detonated across faces. Marisol stood afterward, holding her daughter's hand. I saw her walking off the porch, unbidden. I didn't speak then, but now, she said, eyes bright with courage, our silence won't let wrong slide. The gym snapped into respectful silence. One by one, 6 neighbors voiced support, sharing experiences of overreach, sudden threats, fines without appeal, locked-out mailboxes after complaints. Some talked about being too scared to speak up, others disappointed by the board's shifting norms. As they spoke, I watched Meredith seated stage right, flanked by Alan and 2 other board members. She sat stiff, clipboard trembling in hands, sweat glossed her forehead, no smirk. People around her shuffled. Now it was Meredith's turn. She rose abruptly. "This is witch hunt nonsense," she shouted. A few murmurs followed. She turned on her heels, marched out. Alan cleared his throat, exhaling. "A motion to approve the compliance audit," he said, his voice inshore. He glanced at the lawyer, who nodded. "All in favor, say aye." I counted the chorus of ayes. Then, "Opposed?" a lone voice muttered. But not enough. Alan's gavel hit. The room erupted. Some cheered, others just sighed relief. He looked at me. Access revocation goes into effect immediately. Audit committee forms available in the lobby. I stepped down, adrenaline pulsing. Friends hugged, neighbors shook my hand. Denise wiped tears. Marisol hugged her children. I inhaled the magnolia scent tucked in my binder. Dad's swing, our roots, our home. Backstage, Alan found me. "You did it!" The motion passed unanimously. He extended a folder. "Here are the new access logs and key deactivation reports." I shook his hand. He leaned in, quiet. "We'll keep you updated on the audit schedule." He straightened, then said, "Thank you for pushing us to this." Before leaving, Eli appeared, holding 2 cups of coffee. He handed me one. "You okay?" he asked, voice soft. I took a sip. "Yes, more than okay. We change things." I looked around at neighbors still chatting, some hugging, others snapping pictures. This is community. That night, I sat on our porch swing, magnolia bookmarks still in my pocket. The air smelled of home. The fight would go on through paperwork and audits, but tonight, this was victory. A quiet triumph, but powerful. The audit committee didn't waste time. Within days, notices went out. Every master key revoked pending verification, every lock getting replaced by the end of the week. Meredith's name vanished from HOA communications. No formal announcement, just absence, like someone yanked her plug from the wall. Denise told me over coffee that the board quietly accepted her resignation. No parade, no apology. Still, the impact lingered. You could feel it on our street. People waved more, doors stayed open longer. A couple of neighbors brought over pie the next evening. Eli grilled steaks on the back patio while our old swing creaked behind us in rhythm, like it was humming. That Sunday, I asked Eli to help me with something. We spent half the day repainting the old bench Dad built, the one tucked under the magnolia tree. Years of pollen and sun had dulled it, but the wood still held. Eli sanded the frame while I worked in the carvings. Dad's initials, Mom's quote. That bench had been witness to so much. Dad's long talks, my first arguments with the HOA, even the day Meredith tried to fine us over the tree dropping excess debris, but now it looked like new life breathed back into it, like legacy had roots too. "Feels different now, huh?" Eli said, wiping his hands. I nodded. We held our ground. That matters. Around dusk, Marisol dropped by. She brought a paper bag with lemon cookies and a small note. She'd written, "Thanks for making us feel safe again." She lingered on the porch steps before speaking. "I don't know how you did it, but I'm glad you did. Some of us thought we just had to take it, that we'd always be quiet." I smiled. I used to think that too, but silence never built anything worth keeping. After she left, I watched Eli head inside. I sat on the swing a little longer, the air warm and still. No motion sensors blinking, no clipboard-wielding figures lurking, just the breeze rustling the magnolia branches. And I thought about Dad, about the kind of man who built things with his hands, benches, fences, memories. I remembered how he'd told me once, "You don't need to win loud, just win right." This felt like that. The next board meeting wasn't dramatic, no screaming, just policy reviews, a vote to install individual lock systems and new transparency rules. But the chairperson did stop mid-agenda to say, "We owe Nora Davis our thanks." I didn't stand, didn't need to, because this wasn't about applause, it was about reclaiming dignity, piece by piece, porch by porch. That night, I tucked the magnolia bookmark back into Dad's journal. That symbol, our quiet resistance, had done its job. Justice didn't need sirens. Sometimes it just needed a locked door, a clean bench, and neighbors who finally felt like a community again. Justice doesn't have to scream. Sometimes it just needs to be heard. If you've ever felt powerless against an HOA or watched someone cross a line that shouldn't be crossed, tell me your story. Drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from. Let's make these stories count. Together.